Some places on Earth don't just look strange, they feel like they completely break the rules of physics. A river disappears into a hole and no one knows where it comes out. Imagine monasteries that sit like castles in the clouds. A mosque built on the waves looks like it flies above the sea. There's a tree that grows in the air without ever touching the ground, and a temple carved out of a single rock so massive it makes engineers today shake their heads. Entire islands float on a lake, as if they were ships. In another corner of the world, a temple pillar floats above the floor, untouched by gravity. These are not illusions, but real places that make scientists, travelers, and even locals question what they see. Let's dive in and count down the most unbelievable places that break physics and blow your mind. Meteora monasteries. In central Greece, sandstone rock pillars rise dramatically from the valley floor, some reaching heights of 400 meters. On top of these impossible cliffs sit the Meteora monasteries, which look like floating castles in the sky. They were first built in the 14th century, when monks escaped invading armies and wanted safety in the clouds. Back then, there were no steps or bridges. Monks had to climb rope ladders or sit in baskets pulled up by ropes. Imagine dangling 1,000 feet above the ground just to get home. At their peak, there were 24 monasteries, but today only 6 remain active, still housing monks and nuns. UNESCO has named Meteora a World Heritage Site because of its mix of natural wonder and spiritual history. Meteora has even appeared in Hollywood. The James Bond film For Your Eyes Only, 1981, was shot here, showing the monasteries like fortresses floating between earth and heaven. Hanging tree in the air. At the ancient Siddheshwar temple in Solapur, Maharashtra, there is a tree that seems to break every rule of nature. Instead of growing from the soil, this tree sprouts directly out of another tree's branch, hanging several feet above the ground with no roots in the earth. Locals call it the tree that grows in the air, and for decades it has remained alive, sprouting fresh leaves season after season. Botanists explain it as a rare form of natural grafting, where 2 plants merge and one begins to grow from the other. But for devotees, it's more than science. They see it as a divine sign, proof of the temple's sacred energy. Pilgrims tie threads and pray beneath it, believing their wishes will be answered. This tree stands out as a living wonder that literally grows in the air. Sumela Monastery. Hanging on the side of a cliff in Turkey's Pontic Mountains, the Sumela Monastery looks impossible. Built around the 4th century, it sits at 1,200 meters above sea level, with its walls blending directly into the rock face. For over 1,600 years, it served as a spiritual center of Christianity in the region, famous for its colorful frescoes showing biblical scenes. Some of these paintings are still visible, even after wars and centuries of neglect. The location wasn't just for beauty. It kept the monks safe from invaders and gave them complete isolation. The monastery was abandoned in the early 20th century, but was later restored by the Turkish government and reopened to visitors in 2019. Standing below, you wonder how ancient builders managed to carry stones, wood, and supplies up such a dangerous cliff. It looks less like human work and more like a fortress carved by the mountain itself. Cherag Bolton. Cherag Bolton is one of those places that makes your heart race just by looking at it. It's a massive boulder wedged perfectly between 2 cliffs in the Cherag Mountain, suspended almost 984 meters above the Lysfjord in Norway. The rock has been stuck there since the Ice Age, when glaciers pushed it into place thousands of years ago. What makes it even crazier is that tourists walk out onto it. standing on a stone above a near vertical drop with no safety rails. It has become one of the most photographed spots in Norway, with hikers from all over the world lining up just to get a few seconds on the rock. Despite how dangerous it looks, there are no recorded accidents, mostly because people respect the risk. The view from the boulder is unforgettable. Deep blue fjords below, endless cliffs above, and one tiny stone holding you in between. Kailasa Temple. The Kailasa Temple at Ellora is one of the greatest mysteries of ancient architecture. Built in the 8th century under King Krishna I of the Rashtrakuta dynasty, this temple wasn't built stone by stone. It was carved entirely out of a single rock. Workers started from the top and carved downward, removing an estimated 200,000 tons of rock with hammers and chisels. Historians still debate how it was possible to achieve such precision with tools of that era. The temple is dedicated to Lord Shiva and designed to resemble Mount Kailash, his mythical home. The courtyard is twice the size of the Parthenon in Athens, and the main spire reaches 32 meters high. Despite being over 1,200 years old, it's still in remarkable condition. Some people even compare it to the pyramids of Egypt, saying it proves how advanced ancient Indian engineering really was. Loktak Lake. Loktak Lake in northeast India is unlike any other lake on Earth. It's famous for its floating islands called fumdis, masses of soil, roots, and vegetation that drift on the water. Some fumdis are so big that villages, schools, and even farms are built on them. People actually live on these moving islands, fishing and farming while the ground beneath them floats. The lake also contains the Kabul Lamjau National Park, the world's only floating national park, home to the rare and endangered Sangai deer, also called the dancing deer because of the way it moves. Loktak is not just a wonder of nature, but also a lifeline, providing hydropower, irrigation, and food for thousands of people. In 2020, it caught global attention when it was highlighted by India's Prime Minister in his national speech, calling it a jewel of the Northeast. Seeing entire islands float across the water truly feels like physics has taken the day off. Hanging Pillar of Lepakshi Temple. In the small town of Lepakshi lies a temple with one of India's most puzzling wonders, a massive stone pillar that doesn't touch the ground. Built in the 16th century during the Vijayanagara Empire, the Lepakshi temple is filled with intricate carvings of gods, animals, and stories from mythology. But the real mystery is the hanging pillar. A small gap runs beneath it, and visitors prove it by sliding cloth or paper underneath. Engineers from the British era once tried to move it, curious about its secret, but locals say their interference caused part of the roof to shift. Whether it was an accident of construction or deliberate advanced engineering, no one is sure. For devotees, the pillar is a symbol of divine design, proof that some things cannot be explained by science alone. Tourists still flock here, eager to test it themselves and see the pillar that floats above the temple floor. Floating Mosque. On the edge of the Red Sea, the Al Rahma Mosque in Jeddah looks as though it's floating on water. Built on stilts directly above the sea, during high tide, the waves lap against its walls, making it seem like the mosque is resting on the surface of the ocean. It's one of the most famous landmarks of Jeddah and a popular stop for millions of pilgrims traveling to Mecca each year. The mosque combines traditional Islamic architecture with modern features, and its dome glows beautifully under sunlight, reflecting off the water. At night, the lights around it make it shine like a pearl in the sea. Locals call it the floating mosque, and it has become a favorite spot for photography, especially at sunset when the building looks suspended between sea and sky. It's a place where faith and nature seem to merge into one breathtaking vision. Shaniwar Wada's Whispering Walls. Built in 1732 by the Peshwas of the Maratha Empire, Shaniwar Wada is a fort full of grandeur and mystery. Among its many features, the most mind-bending is its whispering walls. These walls were designed in such a way that even the softest whisper at one end can be heard clearly at the other. Imagine secret messages being passed during a war without anyone in between noticing. That's how clever the builders were. The fort, however, is also tied to one of the darkest chapters in Indian history. In 1773, a young prince named Narayan Rao was murdered here in a palace conspiracy, and locals believe his ghost still haunts the ruins. Visitors often claim to hear cries at night. Shaniwar Wada has also inspired Bollywood, including scenes in Bajirao Mastani. 4. Devil's Tower. Rising 867 feet above the plains of Wyoming, Devil's Tower looks like a giant stone skyscraper built by nature. Its straight vertical grooves almost seem carved by machines. But scientists say they were formed millions of years ago when molten magma cooled and cracked into columns. Native American tribes have long considered it sacred, calling it Bear Lodge. One legend says a giant bear clawed the tower while chasing children, leaving the long scratches we see today. In modern times, Devil's Tower became world famous after appearing in Steven Spielberg's movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, 1977, where it was imagined as a landing site for aliens. Today, it's a hotspot for climbers, though its sheer walls make it one of the toughest climbs in America. Standing at its base, it feels like Earth itself grew a tower to challenge both gravity and human imagination. 3rd Devil's Kettle Waterfall. The Brule River does something unbelievable. It splits into two streams. One flows normally, but the other disappears into a giant hole in the rock called the Devil's Kettle. For decades, no one could figure out where the water went. Scientists tried pouring dye, ping pong balls, even logs, but nothing came out downstream. Tourists loved the mystery, and the waterfall became legendary. In 2017, researchers finally suggested that the water probably rejoins the river underground. But since no tests ever proved it, the mystery lives on in people's minds. Visitors hike miles just to watch half a river vanish before their eyes. With the sound of rushing water and the sight of one stream disappearing into the earth, it feels like nature is pulling a magic trick, and nobody can fully explain how. Underwater Waterfall. Off the coast of Mauritius, near Le Morne Peninsula, there's a spot where the ocean appears to collapse into a giant underwater waterfall. From above, especially in drone footage, you can see streams of water rushing downward into what looks like an abyss. But the truth is even more fascinating. It's an illusion created by sand and silt being pushed over a steep drop in the ocean floor. The waterfall plunges into a trench that goes down thousands of feet, giving the illusion of a hole in the sea. This site has made Mauritius a favorite for travelers and photographers, and celebrities often share pictures from here. Actor Will Smith once called Mauritius one of the most stunning places he'd ever visited. Whether from a plane window or drone, the scene looks like the Earth has opened a drain in the middle of the ocean. Reverse Waterfall. In the remote Faroe Islands between Iceland and Norway, there is a sight that makes people stop in disbelief. Imagine standing before a cliff and seeing a waterfall, but instead of water crashing down, it flies upward into the sky. This happens because of the island's fierce North Atlantic winds. When storms roll in, the gusts are so powerful that they push streams of water backward, creating the illusion of a waterfall running in reverse. The most famous one is at Gasadalur, where water is blown hundreds of feet into the air, scattering like smoke. Tourists often hike just to catch the spectacle, though it's not always safe during strong storms. Videos of this reverse waterfall frequently go viral, shared across social media as one of the world's strangest natural tricks. Watching it feels like gravity has lost the battle against the wind, leaving nature to write its own rules. Bryce Canyon in Utah isn't really a canyon. It's a giant natural amphitheater carved into the edge of the Paunsaugunt Plateau. What makes it mind-blowing are the thousands of stone towers called hoodoos rising like frozen soldiers. Some reach up to 200 feet, shaped by frost and erosion over millions of years. The Paiute people, who lived here for centuries, believed the hoodoos were ancient people turned into stone as punishment. Today, scientists know it's caused by water seeping into cracks, freezing and slowly breaking the rock apart. The colors are equally stunning, ranging from red and orange to white, and they change with the sun's position. At sunrise, the hoodoos glow like fire. Under a full moon, they look ghostly pale. Bryce Canyon is also one of the best stargazing spots in America, with more than 7,500 visible stars on a clear night. Standing here, you feel like you've stepped into another world.